In this lesson, we're going to talk about the time value of money. So by the end of this, you should understand how the timing of cash flows affects your finances, and you should be able to recognize situations where financial analysis can really help with decision making. So let's start with the great news. Let's say you've won the lottery. Let's suppose it's $8 million and you have two options of collecting your money here. Option number one would be you can take all 8 million right now up front, and we'll ignore taxes for the moment here. Option two is you could receive $500,000 or 500,000 every year for the next 20 years. And these are actually very common options for lottery winners. They can pay them out immediately, or they can pay them out over the next 20 years or so. So which option would you choose and why? Well, my next question is, what factors did you consider in your decision? Because remember that time is money, and so the option one, if we want to look at what it's worth, would be $8 million today. That should make perfect sense. 8 million is 8 million. But what about the $500,000 that you're going to get 20 times? If you just did the simple math, it's not really that simple, because a $500,000 times 20 would be $10 million total. But remember, a lot of it you're not going to get for 15, 20 years. Those last 5 payments are going to be 15 to 20 years down the road. So we've got to understand that time is money, and that this may not equal $10 million worth of benefits for you. The simple math is $500,000 times 20 equals 10 million. I get that, but you've got to understand that if I have the money right now, I can invest it. So you'd rather have the money up front, because that's the time value of money. All right, let's take a look here. If I had the 8 million right now and I invested it and got just a measly 4% per year over those 20 years, that 8 million would actually grow to be worth over 17 million. It would more than double, right? Double 8 is 16. Even if you said, yeah, the government's going to take taxes out. Let's suppose they took 40% of that. 40% of the 8 million would leave you, I think, with somewhere in the 5 million range. And I did the run numbers on this, and even if the government took 40% of the 8 million, it would still be worth 10.5 million at 4% per year, compounded for 20 years. So this option one is far better, even if they took out 40% taxes, because option two, all that money, or a lot of it anyway, is going to be not in your hands until 15, 20 years down the road. Okay, so think about that. Money has value because you can invest it, and if you invest it over time, it can grow tremendously. Okay, so a little bit of money plus time can equal a lot of money. That's the main point of this lesson. Getting the money now has tremendous value. That's the time value of money. Okay, so is a dollar always worth a dollar? That's not meant to be a trick question, but it really depends on when you get it. Okay, a dollar today is worth more than a dollar 10 years from now. A dollar 10 years from now, I don't even care about it. I'm not even going to think about it. Okay, dollar today I can use. All right, so let's look at a couple cases. First case, suppose someone pays you $1,000 today. How much would you have a year from now? Well, it depends on the interest rates and what you can do with it, right? So if interest rates are 5%, we'll just pick a low number here. We go principal times interest times time. Okay, and you're going to get $1,000 times 5%. There's your 5% expressed as a decimal, as we've always done. 5% per year times 1 year, $50 in interest. Plus, you still have the original 1,000, so you've got $1,000.50. Okay, or $1,050. Okay, so that's good to remember. What about the second case? What about person isn't going to pay you until a year from now? How much would you have a year from now? Well, you'd have 1,000, right? When they pay you. What this means is you've lost the opportunity to earn interest on your $1,000. This is known as opportunity cost. Okay, it's what you lose when you choose one option over another. In this case, you didn't have a choice. The guy wasn't going to pay you. But certainly it's cost you $50 because he's not paying you. You could have invested at 5% and made $50. Him not paying you has a very real opportunity cost. In fact, in this case, you can calculate the numbers, $50. Okay, so one more question. If I were to accept money from him today, what amount today would be worth $1,000 a year from now? Now, it may be a confusing question, but I think you can see that I'd be willing to accept a little bit less money today because it can grow to $1,000. Okay, here's how it looks. Your principal times 5% times 1 year equals the interest payment, which is $1,000 minus whatever that principal is. I did the math here, and finance people do use quite a bit of algebra here. So if I did the math here, that principal comes out to be $952. If you don't believe that, you can check it. You can go 952 times 5% times 1 year equals $48. Oh, 952 plus 48 equals 1,000. Well, why did I do all this? My point is to try to show you what it means. Here's what it means. I'm just as happy getting $952 today as I would be getting $1,000 a year later, because the 952 is going to grow with interest to be $1,000 anyway. So taking less money today is the same as waiting and getting money later. It all depends on interest rates and time. So this is the time value of money. Now, how can this help you? Let's look at some situations where understanding the time value of money can help with decisions. Let's suppose you went to college and you took out a huge amount of college loans. You're not going to get them all at once, but let's suppose you did, just for simplicity's sake. Suppose you got 30,000 here right when you started college. You didn't even have to pay it back for 4 years. That's rare. Can't do that with a home loan, can't do that with a car loan. But college loans are the interest is paid by the government while you're in college. So in year 5, when you get out and you're making money, you got to start paying. I did a calculation with an online loan calculator at about 10% interest, which is what they were doing for college loans, or I think it was anywhere from 8 to 10. They said it was about $550 a month times 12. I got about $6,600 per year you're going to pay out. That's a lot of dough. Almost $7,000 a year you're going to have to pay back. If you paid it back in 10 years, notice there's 10 arrows here. This is called a cash flow timeline, showing the down payments are money you pay out. The up arrows are money you received. And so this looks pretty bad. 6,600 each year. What a bad deal. But wait a minute. That 30 grand you got had 4 years interest free. Oh, and by the way, didn't we calculate very early in this course that people who go to college, the average college degree holder makes about $22,000 more per year than the person who didn't go to college? So this is a no-brainer. Yeah, 6,600 per year, $22,000 more in salary and earnings per year. That's a no-brainer, even if I have to pay back the loan. Okay, so this one makes sense, right? But notice the timeline. Up arrows are money you're getting, down arrows are money you're paying out. This one is a winner, okay? So keep that in mind when you think about the expensive um, costs of college. What if somewhere in your career you want to buy a business? Somebody's offering you their business, don't know what it is, but they can show you they make about $5,000 per month from this business. They've got receipts to show it. You're doing your homework here like this guy, you're checking it out, but what's the business really worth? Well, one common way to value a business is to look at cash flow analysis. So if each of these payments, I suppose I want to only look at the business for about the next 7 years, if each of these payments is $5,000 a month, okay, I'd set up a cash flow chart. It's actually 60,000 a year if it's 5K per month, right? 5 times 12 is 60. So I'm going to make 60 grand a year from this business. Well, I can discount all these cash flows using time value of money analysis here and find what's the value today of all these cash flows out in the future. We're not going to do the calculations, okay, but I've done them for you. And what it means is the present value today of all these cash flows in the future tells me what's a fair price today. Most businesses would look at 10, 12, 15% return is what they require. I just went with 10, and a 10% return on this investment would mean this business is worth about $292,000 today. Now, one other factor is you would own the business, right? So at the end of 7 years, oh, you could sell it and you'd get a bunch of money for it. Okay, so these are the tools by which smart business people make decisions. Companies do it, people can do it, okay, entrepreneurs do it, but you've got to understand the time value of money and how money out in the future isn't worth as much as money today, because money today, you could make money with it. All right, what if you're planning for retirement? Suppose you didn't save money and all of a sudden you're in your middle years, maybe you're 51 years old and you want to retire at 65. You got 14 years left to save a whole bunch and try to get to $1 million nest egg by the time you're 65. Okay, because you figured out $1 million you can live on the interest, or that'd be enough for you. Okay, how much would you need to save each year for the next 14 years? Well, you would have to plunk down a huge chunk of change that grows. And if I could earn 8% per year, which is about what a lot of people think the stock market makes on average these days, okay, I'd have to save $38,000 every year for the next 14 years of my working life to get this nest egg of $1 million built up. If I only make 6% on my investments, I need to save $45,000 every year. That's a good salary. I can't save that much. Some people don't even make that much. So one of the things this type of planning teaches you as well is that if you start late, it's going to be really difficult even to get to a relatively small nest egg. $1 million is not that much, especially with life expectancies today. All right, so in summary, having money available to invest obviously earns you more money. The sooner you can get ahead, the sooner you can start making money with interest in investments. If you get behind, if you go into debt, guess what? Others are there waiting to make money from you and your debt, whether it's a credit card company, whether it's a mortgage company, whether it's a bank, anybody else who you got to borrow from, they're going to make money from you because money's not free. All right. So a couple key points. Cash flow analysis can help you make good financial decisions. Getting into the details of this cash flow analysis is beyond the scope of this course, but I want you to realize the time value of money is a big part of that analysis. And also, if you want to save for retirement, it's going to be a lot easier if you start early. Take a look at this graph. If you start when you're 45, you only get up here to this dark green section. You start at 35, yeah, it gets pretty good. If you start young, look at how the curve grows in the later years, but you can't get that unless you start early. So think about the time value of money. Hope that's been helpful for you.